Hey guys, welcome back and thanks for joining us here at Totally Booked Readers. My name is Alissa.
I'm Kiara.
And I'm Hope. We are three best friends with a passion for reading who enjoy getting together to talk about all kinds of books.
We're just here for the vibes, the good, the bad, and the spicy.
So stick around for the rest of this episode for our book club about Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. In this episode, there will be nothing but spoilers, so please make sure that you have read Part of Your World. If you haven't, go ahead and hop off here, read it, and then come back and listen to this episode. Okay, team. I'm very excited about this episode in particular because I love Abby Jimenez, but I did something silly and I somehow skipped the first book in this little series that she has going on, so I went straight to Yours Truly. So we thought it'd be fun if all three of us, because Hope and Alissa haven't read an Abby Jimenez book, if we all went back to the start, which is Part of Your World. So this is their toe dip into Abby's universe, and I'm very excited because I feel like they've been quiet about their opinions since they finished.
I, for one, did not realize that this was a series until I finished the book and it said at the very end to continue on for the next person's POV or next person's part of the story, and I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
That made me so happy to realize it was part of a series.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until you just said it, actually. I mean, I knew at the end of the book that she had written another book, but I didn't know if it was a duology or what.
Yes. So my favorite book, this is probably in my top 10 favorite books, is Yours Truly, which is about Bree. Which is the best
Bree.
friend in this book.
I loved Bree.
She was so bubbly and fun, and I did like her.
Honest and a good friend.
A great friend. And I just liked her. She didn't put up with no shit.
Exactly.
Well, and she's
I don't know if we wanted.
Divorced.
Oh, yes. So she has her own story. And so I'm excited to hear if you guys like this one and I don't know, if you want to continue on your own in this series. Because then I'll get to finally hear your thoughts on my favorite characters. So, yay.
Yes.
And I don't know if you guys wanted to start with ratings or... Okay, you want to start with those? Let's hear it. What do y'all think?
Hope, what did you rate it?
I was pleasantly surprised by this book. I gave it a 4.5.
I was also pleasantly surprised by this book. Immensely so. I gave it a 4.75.
Oh my god. Yay. This is the best news ever. Oh my god.
What did you give it, Kiara?
Yeah.
Well, knowing what I get into later, I gave it a 4.25.
I originally put it as a 4.25, but then I couldn't stop thinking about it later that night and I changed it. So
those are the best kind, the ones that they linger with you and you're like, I cannot get this out of my head.
The only reason it wasn't a 5-star for me is because the author, Abby Jimenez, which I really loved her writing, by the way. I loved it. It flowed very nicely. I liked her descriptions. I didn't feel like she you know how some authors get a little over the top with descriptions and some people don't offer enough. I thought it was perfect. I pictured everything great. But her big mistake for me in this book was that I loved the male main character way more than the female main character.
Yeah.
I was like, Daniel, don't forgive her. You deserve better.
Yeah.
Daniel has that effect on people.
Daniel was
I loved
it. Perfect. He was a good book boyfriend.
From the jump, he was good. Just a good human.
I loved the meet cute we got with them. I think it was we got 2 meet cutes. The very first just side of the road, don't really know you, and then meeting in the bar. That was I loved how that just flowed together, and I was afraid because I read a couple of books where it's like the male main character makes a bet with his friend group, and then later on the female finds out about it and this that. I was so afraid that that was going to be like the big conflict in this story, but for like the next page, he straight up told her about it. I was like, "Oh, this is great. I love this."
One of my
Yeah.
favorite quotes was from like one of the very first chapters where they're in the bar and he like goes up to pay his bill to leave or whatever, and then they strike up a conversation, and he tells her about the bet, and then she's like, "Well, I'll leave with you and we can split it 50-50," which I loved that. That was so
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah.
But he says, "I'm not an asshole. It's my favorite thing about myself."
He definitely
He
lived
knows.
up to that. He was not an asshole at any point.
No, he's
Yeah.
self-assured. He knows
Mhm.
himself.
By chapter 10, I had made a note to myself that I said, "I'm on chapter 10 and I'm in love. This man is so perfect."
That's so good to hear.
Mm.
How did y'all feel about how the one night stand came to be, how it
I
happened?
hated the closed door because I'm just not used to that. It really pissed me
Mhm.
off when I found out, but I was like, you know what? She's gotta she's gotta live. And I knew it wasn't just gonna be a one night stand. I mean, obviously, it's a romance book. It's not a one night stand.
I
Mm.
loved the fact that it ended the chapter with her saying, "I don't do one night stands." And she did one night stands. Well, I guess she doesn't do one
Yes.
night stands because it wasn't really a one night stand. But
Mhm.
I thought it was like it all made sense. Like she was just getting out of a long-term relationship. He's from a small town, like,
She's just
these kind of
passing
women.
through.
Yeah,
He's
these kind of
younger.
2
women.
hours 2 hours away from where she lives.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and these kind of women don't come around here very often. Like, yeah. I just really liked it. And then the fact that he had like his little house. I don't know. I loved it. I loved everything about it. The fact that
Chloe, the little baby
yeah,
goat.
Chloe.
That
I
was
loved when he was like
adorable.
I was like when at the very beginning when he kept saying I got to go feed my kid, I was like,
Mhm.
is he like a bad dad? Like what kid is he leaving alone?
You're like,
Like
"An Elsie Silverman would never."
I know. I was like, what single dad romance is this?
That's
But
funny.
I was
Well, she
picturing, like,
stole
an
his
actual
hoodie and took it with her so that
mm.
there wouldn't be, there was probably going to be another get together.
yes. I really liked the idea of the fact that they came from two different worlds. But not
Mhm.
only that, because that's very common in books, a lot of times when this trope happens, I feel like the problems really aren't that big of a deal. Like if their families
Yes.
hate each other, I'm like, okay, and your families hate each other. Oh well, move away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, I really felt the conflict in this book because it truly was like they were like between a rock and a hard place. Like she had this legacy and this career and all of these things that she really couldn't leave behind, and then also he couldn't like up and sell his family home and move and be in the city
He
with
had
her,
just as
like,
big of a legacy as she did,
right,
which
just in
I
Yeah.
a
feel like
smaller town.
I feel like when this problem arises in a lot of different books, it's like one person doesn't fit in somebody's world. Like, somebody can always mesh.
Yeah.
Both of these people, it felt like they both it was just the society, the way they grew up, their all of it was different.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So at the beginning I understood the conflict.
Mhm.
Towards the end, I was like, "Leave your fucking shit, lady.
Uh-huh.
Like, what do you mean? Why is this an issue?"
I wanted to
Yeah.
smack her upside her head and tell her to call her damn brother. I loved the dynamic of, like, at the end when the brother and his wife came into play, but I was like, I wished we saw more of that, and I wished that their relationship played more into, like, her realization of, like, "Oh, maybe I'm not crazy. Like, my brother left this family for in the legacy.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the end of the world if I do the same for myself.
Well, I also thought that the conversation at the beginning, like towards the beginning, that Alexis had with her brother Derek was a perfect way to give us a glimpse into what their life is.
Mhm.
But it was just that. It was like a glimpse. It was like we could see that they were both kind of dealing with that legacy in a way, but it seemed like Derek was like 10 steps ahead of her, of like he's already been through the journey that maybe she went on throughout the book. And he said, like, one of the quotes that I wrote down was that he shared with her, like, don't let them decide the life you're going to live, you only get one.
Yep.
And it's like that's something that it took him a while and he found out prior to the events of this book. And I felt like this book was her whole journey of believing that,
Mhm.
Mhm.
or
I
getting to that point.
I
Absolutely.
felt like I missed a book. Like, I felt like there should have been her brother and the singer. I was like,
Yeah.
how does that happen? Like, I was like, is this the second book? And Kiara didn't tell us, but no.
I don't think so. I mean, I know she had another like trilogy in the past, but I think I read some of that and I don't know if they existed in that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I was like, I feel like I'm missing a story here. I'm missing some
Yeah.
information.
Well,
That's
I know that we got quickly into like the um Daniel and Alexis date of it all. Like they were going on dates, like that very first one at the drive-in.
that was
What did
he
y'all
put
think of
in
that?
so much effort just for a hangout because they weren't
Mm-hmm.
together. That was so sweet, and getting his friend involved and him helping, and I I thought it was perfect. It was so sweet.
The Princess Bride is one of me
Mhm.
and my husband's favorite movies to watch together. In fact, we just watched it like the other week. Um, and so the Princess Bride like references throughout the book,
Yeah.
I loved. I died. I loved them so much. It just made me love Daniel even more.
Don't hate me, but I've never seen that movie.
That's insane.
You have to watch
And
it.
we must watch it.
I noted that like his friendships with Doug and Brian were like I obviously have never had like a male to male friendship because I am not a male. But I felt like that was exactly what you would want out of a friendship.
Yeah, I thought it
Yeah.
was so cute. I also really liked the dynamic of Brian being in love with the girl
Yes. The
that was
bartender.
in the
Yeah.
abusive
With
relationship.
Liz.
Like there was
Yes.
just
Mhm.
so much going on in this book besides the characters themselves.
Do
It
they
was
have a book?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, that would be fun.
Mm-mm.
they would be
But there
cute.
is, so like the trigger warning here is that throughout this book, we're talking about different forms of abuse.
Mhm.
And so with Alexis, she deals with a lot of, she has dealt with a lot of mental and emotional abuse from both her past partner and her father.
Yeah.
And Liz was kind of like a parallel, but that she was dealing with kind of physical, emotional, mental, kind of all of those different things. But I did think that like seeing and hearing bits and pieces of Liz's story being depicted through like how Alexis was viewing it and how Daniel was viewing it was really important. I thought it was really well written.
I
Wait,
loved
that's amazing. Sorry, but that's amazing that you say that because now I'm realizing like the parallel of the two forms of abuse and how Alexis, when she saw it was happening to Liz, was automatically like, you need to leave. I'm going to
Mhm.
give you all of the resources to get out of there. But then Alexis herself has put up and with the abuse and stayed in the abuse for so long just because
Mm-hmm.
it was a different form of abuse. But she was almost like not judging Liz because she understood, but it was like hard for her to like understand why Liz kept staying after
Mm-hmm.
every event, and it's like but she was doing the same thing, just a different form of abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a quote which I had to write down because it was when Alexis talks to Liz about it for the first time. So she's like seeing it, and Daniel explains a little bit of it, but she never has that direct conversation with Liz until she does. And she says, all at once, she like looks her in her eyes and she says, I believe you. I can handle anything you need to tell me. You do not need to protect me from the truth, and I am here to help you in any way I can. It is not your fault, and you don't deserve it. And I think by that point in the story, she was also kind of like talking to herself in a
Mhm.
way.
She had
But
grown to
yeah.
the point where she was able to say those words and believe
Mhm.
them, and also believe them for someone else. Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, I loved getting the glimpses of Liz and Brian towards
Mhm.
the end.
Like you said, Alyssa, all the characters. I felt like there was so much more in the background. Kiara, you texted us right when we first started reading this that you were like apologizing for some of the background characters or some of the side characters, and I stressed out when I started reading it. I didn't really understand what you were talking about because
Yeah.
I enjoyed all of them. Yes, some of them were like, oh, you're terrible. You're a terrible human. But I wasn't annoyed by any of them, if that makes sense.
I
I
was.
was. Her
Oh.
friends from
Oh,
where she lived, the two of them, I thought that there was going to be like some redeemable aspect of them, but we never got that.
we didn't. We got it
Like
with her mom.
especially with
But
Gabby,
not
like
with,
I
mhm.
thought like we would get something, but Gabby was horrible till the end, like through
Yeah.
the end.
That I one of my favorite quotes comes from that situation where they, came and they treated him like garbage the whole
Oh.
time, and
Mhm.
like
It's
she
not his
just
fault
made
the dog brought in a squirrel.
yeah, but she just made excuses to like not spend time with them and to spend time with him. And then at the end, when her friend was writing the 1-star review, and she was like, "This is his entire livelihood. Like, why would you do that over something so
Mhm.
petty?" And the quote was, "He was in the worst position to be generous, yet he was. And she was in the best position to show grace, and she didn't. And doing it would have cost her nothing."
Mhm.
And I loved
Grace
that.
cost you nothing.
Grace cost you
That's
nothing.
that's my favorite quote, and it's said like 12 million times, and I've really taken it to heart. I
Well,
love
Mhm.
it.
because Alexis took it to heart. Like, that was something that Daniel's grandmother told him, I believe, and he shared with her, like, really early on that story. And she used it for multiple situations throughout the rest of the book.
And
Mhm.
how she said at the very end about how when he brought her flowers when she got the uh the chief job, and
Yes.
Neil like greeted him and shook his hand and was like actually not a jerk to him. And later on, Alexis had mentioned that he was changing other people's lives without even like saying the things to him, just by being influential and through her and that kind of stuff. And that really that touched me. I was like, you can, just by being a good human and influencing that, you can change other people.
Mhm.
Hmm. I also wanted to hear about your thoughts because I could stand on my soapbox and talk about like the village that was around like Daniel because he's like the mayor of the town. But like to see, like, I'm putting quotes around like the villagers come together and like always take care of each other.
It's just
That was just,
one big extended family. That's what it felt
yeah,
like.
so wholesome to see.
It made me want to move to a small town.
Yeah,
I
for
agree.
sure.
And I had recently, it was kind of weird because the timing of it, I had seen like this TikTok right before starting it where it was this girl talking about how her mom is like, she gets it. Like, she is a villager. And like the philosophy that in order to have like a good, functioning, like healthy village around you, you have to be a good villager.
Hmm.
Like, you have to be willing to give the shirt off your back as well if you want that in return. And I think that all the characters from that small town, you get to see that, and to see like Alexis like slide into that so easily, like so
Mhm.
seamlessly. And I think
Mhm.
that's why like the old man, I don't remember his name, he was like, the town wants her, we're gonna
Yes.
keep her.
Mhm. The
I did
magic.
I was gonna say, I did
I
find it a little
know.
odd every time things popped in about the magic, about the random rain and the lightning strikes and
The
the
tree
tree petals
falling.
and the yes, the branch falling and then, like, the flower petals falling down off the trees. I was just like, "Okay, what is happening?" I didn't think this was fantasy, but it's not. It was just
It's magic,
real
Hope.
life magic. Yep.
The town wanted her
It
to
was
stay.
it was kismet.
The funniest part of the whole book for me was Doug coming over to help Daniel take a dick pic.
There is an audio on
Yep.
TikTok, which is probably taken from the audiobook, but it's on TikTok, and I have to send it to you guys because I saved it. It is so much funnier on the audio.
I
I'll have to
loved
send
it.
it to you. But they care. Doug cares.
And I
I
found
love
it so
Doug.
funny that the picture wasn't even shared. Like, his whole purpose for saying, like, "She's gonna show all of her friends, you have to get a good one," and not even Bree. That was for her.
Got to see it.
I know I loved that she pointed that out too when she got in the truck with Daniel after the hospital thing, which I thought was so sweet. And she
That was
goes, "I've seen everything except the dick pic."
mhm.
Yeah.
And I love that whole truck scene. Talk about a good friend. Like, okay, this is what happened. She's living or he's living there in a basement. She doesn't want like she's next. And then her parents da 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 da. This is it next. Like, these are not real concerns.
Yeah.
She just didn't know how to voice
Mhm.
them and tell them to you.
Right. But it felt like if I was in Daniel's shoes, I would feel the absolute same way. Like I would think like, wow, I just walked in there and none of her family, none of her friends knew about me. Even the friends that literally met me a couple months ago don't even know that I'm who she's
Mhm.
been seeing and her ex-husband's there. Like I would be like, okay, she's not really committed to any of this.
What I was saying is I think it was such a good way to fix that problem by having her actual really good friend like
Mhm.
come in and be like, "Hey, I do know you. I know everything about this." She doesn't trust
Mhm.
any of these people. I'm the real person in her life who she talks to. You know, I thought
Mhm.
that was cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was getting frustrated by that point of like the wall was so high for Alexis. And like, I understand that. Like, at that point in her life, it's like people have to prove that they want to be there for you. But I think by that point, Daniel proved it time and time again. And so I was like, oh, the poor man didn't know anything about her life on like a day to day basis.
Yeah.
And that wasn't for his lack of trying, it was because that wall
Mhm.
between her and him was built up by her so much.
Yeah.
And then, like, when they broke up, I was so mad. I was like,
The
that,
third act breakup.
like, I was fuming. I was like, Daniel shouldn't forgive her. He shouldn't. He deserves better. He deserves someone who would treat him the way he treats her. Like, I was like, no, I don't even want them to get back together. I want Daniel to move on.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they're
When
together.
when I was on like the second, I think it was the second from last chapter, the third from the last chapter, I don't even know. When Neil went in her bedroom to apologize to her,
Mhm.
I thought that they were going to try to give him a redemption arc and like get them back together, and I was like, did I just read this whole book for this not to I was pissed. But then they wrapped it up and they fixed it. It was fine. But I got really I was fuming there for a minute as well.
I like
Definitely.
I like the fact that they kind of gave Neil a redemption a little bit because it almost felt like Alexis was truly able to close that door. You know what I mean? Like she was like, I'm not with him because he's done all these things to me and but my family really loves him and all this stuff. Well then towards the end like he really was working on it and really was trying to be a better human, but she was still like regardless of him being a better human, I don't want him,
Yeah,
which I
there's
think
been
was
too much
good.
history there.
But
Yeah.
even
Mhm.
I think it was Bree that said it to her when she brought the margaritas in after Neil left. That apology was like, he can apologize and say whatever he wants to. these people can just learn to be better manipulators and doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean he has changed.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
I would
also
hope that
do
he did.
but I also do think that they depicted of like it's kind of up to your interpretation too, but also they set it up to the point where it's like sharing that no person is too far gone.
Yeah.
You just need to have your eyes opened, and like that has to be your job. Like that was Neil's job to open his eyes. It
Mhm.
wasn't Alexis's, even though she did have to put in a lot of effort to get to that point, and she had to be a little manipulative to get to that point. But he had to choose to take her seriously. Like I know that there's a quote later on about like choices, where Bree, I love her. She says you can decide to put yourself first. You do have a choice. It's not an easy choice. It's not without consequences, but you do have a choice. And I think that, that showed like everyone in this story had their own choice.
The
Yeah.
only one that I don't think would ever change would be her dad. I think he's beyond opening his eyes, you
I
know.
was going to ask you guys about what you thought of her parents.
Get rid of them.
Yeah.
Honestly, they were awful.
I felt bad
Absolutely
for her.
awful.
I did feel bad for her mom when she started connecting the pieces and was like, dad is like Neil and mom was me in that situation, and she just couldn't get herself out of it. I did
Mm-mm.
start to feel bad, but just like Alexis did, you can make that choice for yourself. So she decided to stay there.
I didn't feel bad for her. I was like, that's crazy. The fact that you would allow your daughter to be treated this way, not only by her father, your husband, but then
Yeah.
also by another man and say, like, yeah, you want her to go back to him? That's unacceptable to me. That breaks mom code. That breaks girl code. That breaks friend code. It breaks all the codes.
Yeah, there was a moment where her mom went to visit her, and I was like, this is the chance.
Hmm.
But it was just to guilt her into going to apologize to her dad.
It was disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And
The
I was like, oh my God, like screw them disowning you. You should have disowned them like long
Mm-hmm.
ago. But I know that
the
that's difficult.
I
the
wouldn't want the
way
last name.
Mm-mm. The way that her mom acted towards her, I don't feel bad about whatsoever. It was disgusting. I feel that sympathy for the way that her dad treated her mom
Mhm.
in a way. Just because it's a
Absolutely.
cycle. You have to break the cycle somehow.
I agree. Okay, well, how did we feel about kind of the resolution towards the end? So we have the big gala that she's been talking about for the entirety of the book, that her mom has been prepping her on the speech that she has to give. What did y'all think about her speech?
I had
Well,
mixed
I
feelings about it.
I from the beginning was like, or not the beginning. I won't say the beginning. Like the middle. I was like, I know the answer.
Hmm.
Get an urgent care or a
Hmm.
hospital. You run it there. Like these people obviously need medical attention. Do that. So whenever she was like, I have an idea, and she went to the board and stuff like that, I was like, I bet that's what it is. So I kind of called it, but I really loved her speech. And the fact that her parents were like acting proud after she gave the speech, I would have, she's a better person than I, because I would have been like, and fuck you, and fuck you. Like I would have made it like a tirade personally.
Yeah, I think she did it a little too nicely. I think she did it accepting the family name a little too much. I really think she should have just been like at the hospital and started her own urgent care or her own clinic or whatever. I don't think she necessarily needed to keep the legacy in quotes um part of it, because I wouldn't have wanted anything to do with that legacy. That makes sense.
I agree because I feel like her dad still won
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
he's still, the Montgomery name will continue with the hospital, and like now all that pressure is on her and Daniel's kids. Because now they have to carry on 2 legacies.
And the brother and his wife's kids. Because the clinic was started down in Cambodia too. It just spread it.
Yes.
And made it 10 times more.
My kind of understanding of it, and I might have a different perspective, is that yes, the dad is a problem, but Alexis is proud of the legacy. She's proud of what her family's name has done, the money it's raised, the changes it's made, all the future changes that she might be able to make now that this new clinic is coming into play, like being able to reach, those who are less privileged, who can't afford healthcare. And so I think that there's a piece of her that it's more than just the dad, of like, I don't think at this point she cares how it impacts her dad. She's getting everything that she wants and she's okay with that.
Kind of like what was it towards the very end? It's like when you seriously give 0 fucks, you can ask for whatever you want. So
Yeah,
she
and
doesn't
knowing
care
that,
about what her dad
do you really think Alexis and Daniel are going to put that kind of pressure on their kids?
Yeah.
They are probably going to make the name and the legacy mean more than the dad did, Or say, screw the legacy, the name will live on. It'll be fine.
I don't know. I might just be petty.
Yeah, I was like, no. I was down with her when she had broken up with Daniel, and she was like, well, my dad got what he want, but in the long run, it's not going to be what he actually wants, because the family name's going to die with me, because I'm going to be alone and not have children, and it's going to end with me. I was like, hell yeah, that's the kind of petty I'm talking about.
My thing, I was thinking in my head, okay, so we're going to stick it to mommy and daddy by being miserable and alone forever?
Fuck
Perfect.
yeah, if that's
Great
what
plan.
it takes, Kiara, if that is what it takes, okay, I will die for some revenge, okay?
That's hilarious. That's
That was
so funny.
That was the best part.
I feel like I'm halfway in between. I'm in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Those opinions. I can see both.
Another quote that I really liked was a little earlier in the book when she was talking about like feeling like she was drowning and stuff like that, and Daniel said, I see you, I would save you if you were drowning, and she said she thought it was sweet, but he wouldn't, because I wasn't drowning here with him, I was drowning 2 hours away alone.
Yeah.
I had a quote from earlier in the book, which it's more lighthearted, but I read it and I chuckled a little bit. It was Alexis. They were talking about reading, like how they like to read books and they kind of like to read the same books.
Yeah.
And she goes, reading makes your penis look bigger. Don't quote me on it. The science is really new.
I don't remember
really
that.
That was good.
Don't remember that quote.
I also loved there was a quote at the end, I think when Bree brings her the margaritas and they're really strong, she says, my Czech liver light just went on.
Yes.
That one made me giggle.
How did y'all feel about him like starting his new like turning his hobby into a career with the wood craftsmanship and the taking the confidence that Alexis instilled in him to like ask for whatever price is, turn it into what you want,
I absolutely loved it. I want to say Alexis ate down with that scene where she came back with her friends. Yeah, and the friends are like, wow, how much is that? And Alexis goes, $3,000. And it would look great in your cabin. You're poor if you don't get it.
Oh, that one for you, that would look great. That one's $4,500.
Yep. And Daniel's like, and they're like, okay, do you have Venmo? I was like, yes. She ate down in that scene. I was like, yes.
I loved it so much. It was perfect. Revenge.
Yeah, and then he had his own moment towards the end where he was like, I give 0 fucks. This is $25,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
And people paid it.
And baby, he deserved it.
And he learned his worth. Absolutely. I have a couple love quotes if you guys wanted to hear them.
I would love
Of course
the
I
love.
want to hear them because I also have a few.
There was one that said sometimes it felt like she belonged to a different world, literally. Like when or wherever she came from was so out of the ordinary, I couldn't even imagine it. And I thought of
And
that song.
and
Oh yeah.
it was when he got to her house towards the end of the book and she and like showed him her world. He really he kept saying she could have told me a million times and this would have never been what I imagined. It's so that is the discrepancy of the two worlds that they came from. Like where she lived was so far out of his imagination. Even if she told him a million times, he could have never pictured it. That's crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. One thing that killed me was the fact that he was so willing to give up his own life and like
Oh,
sell his family home and
ouch,
give up
ouch.
everything
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
go be with her and just literally make sure there's food on the table when she gets home and to make sure she's taken care of after her long days at work and stuff like that.
Feet
Like
rubs and hot baths.
I
Yeah.
literally was like, okay, this man is amazing. I'm gonna make my husband read this book. No, I'm just kidding. But I was like, gosh, and the fact that he says, one of my favorite quotes was he says, I love you more. If you think I want any of this without you in it, you don't know anything about me.
Ouchie.
Ouch. Ugh.
I know. He loved her like so much. I thought of like that, you know, how some of the TikTok comments will be like, I hope this kind of love slaps me in the face or hits me with the car.
Yes.
That's how I felt when he said like she felt like the sun, like she was the reason for everything. Like I'd always been waiting for her to get closer and bring me to life.
Oh, it's so
He's perfect.
there. I cried at one point in this book. I wasn't expecting to cry, but I did cry when they were broken up. They had been broken up for about a month, and she called him on the phone in the middle of the night, and they were just talking on the phone, and it was pitch black, and he had to mute himself because he was bawling and he was crying. I thought
Ouch.
that was so real and beautiful because I feel like in a lot of romance books and just in movies in general, just in today's society, you don't get the emotion from the male characters. And I thought it was beautiful that it was highlighted, but it also broke my heart.
I think it's funny that we have such different emotions because I
Oh.
didn't think there was anything beautiful about that. I was enraged.
Oh. Well, that's what
I
I think it
I
was beautiful
said,
that it was highlighted. I don't think it was a beautiful scene at all. I was a blubbering mess,
yeah.
and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? He is perfect. Why you get what?" I was upset at it, but thinking back on it, I love that it was highlighted as a moment.
Yeah.
I agree, but I was enraged. I said, "She made him cry.
Mhm.
I don't like her. He blocked her number. Good. He
Yeah.
deserves better than late night phone calls. Who does this bitch think she is?"
That's so funny.
Oh.
I loved
I know.
him
I
so
was
much.
upset at her for that because it was a selfish moment.
It was so
Especially knowing
selfish.
all that he would be willing to kind of give
Yeah.
to be with her.
I would die for Daniel. I would die for him. He said, I'd fallen in love with a tourist because that's what she was. And the vacation was over.
Oh.
Oh
Ouch.
god.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Ouch. Ouch.
Stab in the
Ouch.
heart. But also, there was something that came up because obviously Daniel, he loves her. He has so many good quotes, but Alexis has a few too. I love this one right here where it says, It's amazing how someone can touch you, even if you only know them for a moment in time, how they can change you, alter you indelibly. Is that the right word? Indelibly? Daniel had altered me. And he sure did.
He
What did
did.
y'all think about all the ways in which he taught her how to be self sufficient?
Oh, that was beautiful.
A man.
A man. How to fix the
Yeah,
circuit breaker, how to turn on the stove, how to cook, how to clean, how to do laundry, it's all perfect.
I want to say, as a doctor, Alexis is very good at caring for other people. Daniel is a nurturer. He
Mhm.
nurtures other people. And I
Yeah.
just think,
Yep, to be the best that they can be.
yes. And I just think that's amazing.
I agree. But yeah, I think they truly both altered each other.
Yes. I
I
did
think
think
that
she had redemption at the end. One of the quotes I put was from Alexis. She says, "Sometimes family is found. I'd found mine in him."
in the whole village,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
they're just a big old fans. Want to
She
move
went from
there.
I know.
being she went from feeling so alone at the beginning of the book to having so many people who loved and cared about her. I mean, they had 350 people at their wedding
Yeah.
Yeah.
that all had to sign NDAs for her brother.
I thought that was so funny.
There was also a quote like Alexis has never met her sister in law, not once. But there was a quote towards the end where she was talking about like how wonderful of a person she is not having known her, like all the things that she's capable of, all the things that she's seen.
Mm.
And I'm sure that lends itself to like your both of you saying like, oh, it felt like we should have known more about them or we learned from a previous book. But it was kind of just like a woman empowerment moment because it was just like showing like she is a badass and I don't even know her, but I respect her. And
I
I really appreciated that.
I thought it really showed a lot about Alexis's character that she had no idea who her sister-in-law was. She had no idea of a way to get to know her, but
Yes.
she got to know her through her music
Yes.
because
Yeah.
she cared about her brother and loved her brother enough that she knew that if her brother loved this person, that she was going to love her too, and she just tried to get to know her in the way that she could.
And
And I
would
thought that
talk
was
about
so
and
amazing.
relate to the different eras of what she was going through and or what she must have been going through when she was writing the music and trying to
Mhm.
connect to her through that because that was the only way she knew how to get to know her. That was really fun. Really good
Yeah.
good tidbit of I feel like the brother and the sister-in-law was a bit lacking in the book. I would have liked to see them more.
Mhm.
But through that, it was a very fun way for her to get to know her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think their absence, at least the brother's absence, was kind of what we needed to have this book because if she had more people in her corner where she was at, I know Bree was there obviously, but her brother's different,
Mhm.
then I don't know how much like the
Growth
events of
she would have
this,
had.
yeah, the
Yeah.
events of the book would have continued if she had that kind of level of support and she didn't have that level of pressure with him not being or with him being there, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm. I will say I'm not used to contemporary romance. This is probably the first one I've read in a long time.
Mhm. Me too.
So I was not prepared for like Hope said earlier, like the closed door romance. And just
Yeah.
the fact that she kept saying like it felt like a tease, honestly, that she was like, "We're having the best sex I've ever had. This is the best sex I've ever had." And I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah,
tell me
share with the
about it."
class.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
What's so
Share with the
good?
cat. Yeah.
I would say I think that there was one scene and it was so mild. It was so tame.
Mhm.
But there
It was
was one
very
of them where I
mild.
was like, oh, it's happening. It's like 75% into the book.
Yeah. I was like,
But yeah.
"Okay."
How did we feel about the dog?
I was annoyed by him
Oh,
until
yeah.
but then when they were broken up and he was saying like he
That
was waiting for her.
that oh, that was what I was getting to. It broke my heart. And he lied. He was like, he's here with me. No, he's waiting on the front porch for her to come home. Oh, it broke my heart.
I'm a petty bitch and I would
Ouchie.
have said that. I would have said, "Oh, the dog? Yeah, he's miserable because you haven't been home."
That's so funny.
But yeah, those are my only notes. Not that the author cares about my opinion. Obviously, I loved it. It was a 4.75, but I did love the male main character more than the female main character, and I can't remember the last time that ever happened in a book I've read. And then the closed door romance, but I need therapy, so
No, you're okay. But I think that you guys, maybe it's like, oh, we'll dip our toes into this every once in a while, but it might not be the only form of books that we're reaching for.
Mhm.
I think that we're kind of coming to the end, but I wondered because now you guys both know through me sharing with you that this is kind of a series. Obviously, they're not like fully like interconnected, but they exist in the same world. And I wonder what you think if Alexis is leaving the hospital. What does that mean for the chief job she just took that she is now leaving?
Oh, is Bree gonna get it?
I don't know, but it's definitely
I
up
hope
for
Bree gets it.
grabs.
Wait, is Bree and
No,
Doug
don't
the
even
next
say.
book?
Oh, okay. No, that's not what I
What do you
thought
think
you
I
were
was
gonna
gonna
say.
say? Is it Bree and Doug in the next book?
I can tell you one tidbit, and that
I
is the mailman character of the next book you have not met.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I feel bad for
Alyssa, I
Doug.
thought you were gonna guess Bree and Neil, and I was like, better not be.
Ew.
I
What the
know.
fuck? Bree is a girl's girl. She would not go after her best friend's ex-boy.
I know. That's why I was like, she
Mm.
better not think.
I hope it's Bree, or I hope it's some new hot ER doctor that Bree gets to
A new chief?
adjacently be chief.
So now that we've, you guys have read your first Abby Jimenez book, the question that we've all been waiting for, and by we, I mean me, I've been waiting for. Will Alyssa and Hope read more Abby Jimenez?
I plan on it.
Yes, I will. I will.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Snap, 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 snap. Yay! I am pleasantly surprised that we got 4.5 and 4.75 from the two of you on a closed door romance.
I loved it.
I really enjoyed the writing style. I felt really connected with the characters. It felt real. And again, it felt different because again, it's not a style of book that I read a lot, so I did enjoy, even though it was real, it felt different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
Mm.
It opened my eyes to all of contemporary romance. So like now I'm considering like Emily Henry and people like that, as
Yeah.
well as Abby Jimenez,
Mhm.
because I've heard lots of good things about all of these books. So
Yeah, I am so excited. I love Bree's book. And so I can't wait for you guys to read that. I will allow it to happen naturally. I will not peer pressure anyone. I want you guys to be able to enjoy it in your own time. But this is so fun because I know that you guys have a kindred spirit like within the two of you guys because I think that you guys like fantasy and like romantasy more than me, but I still love it. And now I feel like maybe you'll have that for my contemporary romances or my literary fiction of like I obviously like fantasy and romantasy more and dark romance, but I like to dip my toes in every once in a while.
I feel like
yes,
that's a very true statement.
I agree.
Yep.
This is so exciting. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I think that pretty much sums up our book club of this book.
I would
We
like
want
to
to.
thank Kiara
Mhm.
for recommending this book for us and getting us to read it because I fully enjoyed every second of it.
Yes, thank you, pal. It was wonderful.
Oh my goodness. You are so, so welcome. I'm here with recommendations anytime, even though I know that we have a never ending TBR that we're all working through.
Mhm.
And as mood readers, there is no planning for
Mm-mm.
what books we can read, really.
We just pick
So
one
the
up.
fact that we're even here, I'm so happy about it.
We need to decide what our next book club book is going to be.
That is true. And I have too many on the brain to even think about right now. But as soon as we do, you listeners will know as well. But we do want to thank you for joining us as we chatted with each other about our thoughts and feelings about Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez.
Follow us on all our socials at Totally Booked Readers so you can stay up to date on our most recent episodes and releases.
And we hope you take some time out of your totally booked schedules to join us next Tuesday for a game of Guess Who. Okay, bye!